All right, welcome to this photo shoot. Today you're gonna see me do a full package on this house. That's photos, video, drone, and virtual tour. And you're gonna see how I do it, and you'll get to scratch the surface of what it takes to be a real estate photographer. Come on, let's check it out. So the first step is to, no matter how boring that sounds, is to basically turn all the lights on and raise all the front-facing blinds up so that when you're taking pictures outside, you get to see the beautiful windows and not have weird lines in them, such as blinds. All right. So I'm just gonna walk around, turn the lights on. I would definitely always check underneath, not to miss it, because sometimes it's a switch, sometimes it's little buttons underneath the cabinets. I think this is it. Well, here we go. So yeah, sometimes these things get annoying. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that all the toilet lids are down. You want to make sure that the fans are off and that I can see through the window. Now there's a house next to it, so I can understand maybe some people don't want to see that. That's fine. Let's just, you can adjust the blind either up or down a little bit, but still have light come through. Because then the light bounces from the ceiling and into the room versus bouncing from the floor and creating a glare. Now let's head upstairs. I just want to check sometimes the closet. Closet is nothing interesting than this, then I keep it closed. If there's cabinets in the closet, it's a good idea to capture at least one picture. So we do normally ask the owners or the agents to do this for us, because it does cut into our production time. But in case of like a house that's not occupied, it's still nice because we're gonna move through the house faster because it's not occupied, right? All right, if you can't find how to turn one light on or off, whatever, what can you do? Nothing. I think we're ready for our first production. Now, there's different flows to it. It could be, you can start with photo, you can start with a drone, you can start with various things. I like starting with a drone because I have my laptop with me and now I can get the editing process started right after I fly my drone as I do photos. But for the sake of this video, let's just start with photos, right? Let's go. All right, so as we're gonna start with a camera, it's probably a good idea to understand what kind of camera is good for real estate photography. So I would definitely recommend a DSLR, not a mirrorless camera. I have a photographer that is working with a mirrorless and they love it. It is expensive. You don't need a mirrorless camera is what I'm trying to get to. Here I have a Nikon D7500. I started with D7000. You can probably get a used one for like $500 or even less. D7000 will work. And as far as the lens go, you need something that's 10 to 20 millimeter. So this will give you a really wide range of what would be a range of what? Focal range? Yeah, focal range. 10 is pretty wide and 20 is also wide, but kind of zoomed in. So that's a decent range is what I'm trying to get to. You don't really need anything else that's fancy. Keep in mind bracketing. The reason why I like the 7500, for example, I can take 5 pictures with 2 stops apart, where with, say, for example, a 7000, I was only able to get 3 pictures with, I think, 2 stops too. But only 3 pictures in a bracket instead of 5. So I definitely prefer the 5s. So that's one of the things that you want to look at is how many brackets and how many stops apart. If that doesn't make any sense to you, that's fine. You'll be able to research that. Or you can take my class and learn it. Anyway, so that's the photo aspect of it. Next, we're gonna use the 360 camera from Ricoh to do a virtual tour. We're gonna use Zillow 3D as a platform, and I'll show you exactly how that is done. Next, you're gonna need a gimbal with either the same camera that you wanna sit here. It has to have a, at least 1080 capability. I prefer dedicated cinema camera here. Again, you don't need to be fancy in the beginning. You can go as basic with the minimal requirements, and I would say 1080 is a minimum requirement, but definitely need a gimbal. And you can use the same exact setup, 10 to 20 millimeter lens on your gimbal. So you don't need a second camera like I do have here. Moving to the last element of our full package today is the drone. This is a fancy drone. I had a Mavic 2 for about 2 years and I lost it. Not even in a flight accident. I left it on top of my car. That's embarrassing. So I had to buy this top of the line camera at the time of that accident. You don't need a top of the line camera. In fact, in 2018, I started with Spark, juxtaposed to the industry standard Phantom. That was like night and day, but I still pulled it off with Spark. I still was able to produce beautiful media and people were paying me nevertheless for my services. And little by little, I upgraded my Spark to Mavic 2 in about a year. So you don't need fancy equipment, you just need something that works to get you going. So as I said, we're gonna start with photos. Let's check out the process. All right, so sometimes you gotta improvise. I wanted to start with a drone, then move on for you guys, start with photos, but we have to start with a virtual tour. There's some missing parts and you gotta improvise, you gotta move forward with things. So we're gonna start with virtual tour. We're gonna use Zillow 3D and I'm gonna show you how to do it right now. So if you are looking on my screen, we're gonna hit capture, we're gonna hit floor plan, single house, next. We're gonna select floor 1 and we're gonna scan our first area. Now, don't be intimidated by new technology. 360 camera basically has 2 fisheye lenses on 2 sides, back and forth, and then it stitches it together to create a 360 image. This is a pretty fancy camera. It has a 1-inch sensor, but you don't need a fancy camera to start. It works with Zillow. Even the entry level, I think it's about 300 bucks. So as you see, this is what the camera sees. It's all around itself as I show you and demonstrate you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a foyer right here. We're gonna move the camera, open the door, and we're gonna stand behind the camera. And the perspective from here is what the camera is gonna see, right? You can either kind of like look past the lens here to see what the camera will see, the point of view from the camera, right? Or you can use your thumb, not your thumb, your finger, to also make sure that this is the composition that you want. With camera, it's obviously easy. You have a viewfinder to get a composition going, but with 360 camera, since there's no viewfinder, everything is seen from this point of view. So the point of view really becomes your viewfinder, right? Once you set the position, you're ready to take the picture. Now, this is a good time to talk about thinking about your next point in the virtual tour. And these next points can't be close together, otherwise the arrows here and here will start come together. So for example here, I can't go into the hallway. I would have to go into the dining room here first, and then my upstairs would be here. If I go into the hallway, the arrows are gonna sit on top of each other. So that's one concept that you have to grasp with 360 photography with tour creation. All right, so I think we're ready for our first picture here. We gotta hide. So if you can see the camera will see you. Here we go, the foyer. Boom, foyer. Add new. So we're gonna continue with the first floor. And in fact, we're gonna go ahead and do a floor plan scan. So the system that Zillow uses knows the dimensions of this QR code. And based on these dimensions of this QR code, it's gonna create a floor plan for us. So for the floor plan picture, you don't need to hide because this floor plan picture is not gonna be part of the tour. It's only used to measure the room and put together a floor plan. So you wanna be like about 3 feet away from that QR code. That's why I kind of moved it back a little bit. And once you've taken that QR code picture, it's good for both floors, for the entire house. All right, so we're gonna do a dining room here. And remember, keep in mind where you were before. It helps to actually stand where you were. It's like, okay, this is far enough, right? This is my point going upstairs. This is my point going to a dining room. And to avoid the convergence, I might even like get another one here. So instead of going into the hallway here and backing into the foyer, I'm gonna grab one here. This way that the arrow is further apart from the arrow that's gonna be pointing up the stairs. So we're gonna skip hallway altogether, and then from this point, I'm just gonna go into the kitchen area or the living room area. All right, so we're ready to take this dining room point. So it's important to kind of keep in mind where you were and where you're going to be. It's also kind of helpful maybe like to visualize rooms from the top, maybe. I'm not quite sure. It doesn't really help me, but I have heard stories that people do that. So this is the dining room, and you know, all these labels are there. You can add label. Oh yeah, we'll add to the dining room here. If the room is dark, it's fine. Just like with any other camera, it has long exposure. So as far as like, sometimes agents, they say, oh, this house is so dark. I don't know how you're gonna do it. Psh, easy. All right, so I'm gonna skip this entire area, and I'm gonna kind of just actually go into probably right here. Right, I still have to kind of maintain the line of sight from a previous point. So it's kind of at an angle. Now, when you use other platforms like Matterport, this will not work. So just keep in mind what platform you're using. If you're using your custom platform, you could probably even skip that point that we did in the dining room. But for here, you do have to maintain line of sight. Okay, add new. I'll just call it kitchen. Even though this isn't really kitchen, I'll just call it kitchen. That's fine. So then we'll add panorama to kitchen, and we're gonna go around the island essentially. So we're gonna grab one here, then we're gonna grab one here, because that's kind of like how you stand in front of this. You're gonna spend a lot of time near the stove. So you wanna grab one here, and then you wanna grab one right here too, because you're gonna spend a lot of time here, and apparently here. And from here, we'll still connect to that point, to this point, and we'll probably delete that point because the arrows are gonna be on top of each other. You can always get to that area through clicking on this arrow here, boom, and then you'll click on this arrow to come here. So that's kind of the strategy for this space. So I know exactly my next few points, and I'm visualizing how they're all gonna connect, and I'm anticipating that the Zillow 3D will connect these 2 points. They will converge, but I'll delete the furthest point because I can get to that point by coming to this point first. And hopefully it'll become more clear as we put stuff here on the screen. But we're ready to shoot this one. So let's go hide. Also, as you see on my screen, it's counting down from 10. You can set it to not do any countdown at all, but it does have a glitch. It has a 3-second delay. So that 3-second delay sometimes causes the camera to, I guess, backfire is the best term I can come up with, and turns off. So I found that by increasing it to 10-second timer, it doesn't completely eliminate this problem, but it becomes less frequent. All right, so we'll get one here. I mean, you know, if I'm lazy and if I'm late, I could probably skip this point and just go right here. But I'm not lazy and I'm not late, so, and this is a nice listing, so let's give them the best. Always do your best, why not, right? All right, so our next one here is probably gonna be right here. This is gonna be centrally located. So from here, I can go to the kitchen. I can go to this part of the kitchen that we grabbed first, right? Then I'm gonna go into this living room right over here. This is also gonna be our living room. It's gonna be the hallway, and that's gonna be the patio area. So this is a pretty good location, right? And I'm not so much dependent on the screen here. I'm more of walking around this camera, right? Envisioning where those points are. And if I can see those points where I was from and where I'm coming to, then that's a good position for the camera. All right, I think we're ready. So let's go and hide. So we're gonna add to the living room. I'm gonna go here. And again, you know, because this is not Matterport, that point that we did right there is enough. But this is a nice house, so let's get more points per room. But this is why I do like Zillow 3D, is because you don't have to. So if it's you know, an empty house, for example, or if you arrive to a house and the agent who's supposed to open up the house is half an hour late, you know, you can definitely save time right here on Zillow 3D by just doing minimal, and you'll still be able to pull off the whole 360 tour with all the areas. This is in contrast with Metaport that has to be scanned like every 10 feet. You got to get like some kind of a panorama. All right, so as far as the bedroom goes, you know, you don't need to go deep into it. Just right here, it's fine. Nothing special about these closets, so that's it. So we've done the primary bedroom. It's not primary, but it's a bedroom. And then there's this bathroom. You can definitely set one up here because it's closer to this point. We're in the hallway that we were just a couple moments ago. But because of the mirror, I would put it right after where the mirror reflection ends. So we still see the counter space here pretty well. We see the shower. We see where we were moments ago. So this is pretty good. Actually, that's really good. So we're gonna go ahead and take this, and we should be done with this floor. And then I'll show you a little bit upstairs, and then that's pretty much it for the 360. We covered most of the concepts. Although we scratched the service, I think this is a really good information for you to go off of. Even if you don't end up taking the course, I think the 360 concepts that were covered here are essential. All right, so then on my screen recording here, bathroom, we're gonna go ahead and select second floor right here. And then we're gonna get a new room. All right, so here is a challenge. So you have this space that goes, the arrow is gonna be pointing this way, kind of into the air, but we all know that this is to go downstairs. And then you still have, let's see, oh shit, let's allude to my screen here. All right, so this is what we're gonna see. We in fact are gonna see the bedroom here. And we could put an arrow here, and then we could put an arrow going into this corner here for the hallway. So theoretically, you could skip this point entirely, but you shouldn't. You could, right? Where, you know, if you're pressed on time and so on. The most important thing is those arrows. As long as they don't converge, you're good. But for the sake of this tour, we're gonna grab a point here and we're gonna grab a point here. Even though they're so close together, it'll be a far more pleasant experience if you have 2 points here. So, all right, so let's grab this and hide. So here, this is a loft. And just moving a little bit over, this is gonna be the hallway. So let's actually think about this hallway a little bit. So we're gonna have an arrow here, and arrow here. But if you come here, you see that there's another door right here. So there's a lot of doors in that little tight space. So this is where, by placing this just back a little bit, you'll still see where you were, where you want to go, where you want to go over there, and this bathroom here. So just by moving from here to here, you're going to save yourself 2 points here and here. You see that? So that's just something that's this nuance that's important to grasp with 360 tours, with virtual tours, is where the camera placement is essentially. All right, I'm ready to grab this thing here. I'm gonna move it back a bit. And I'm gonna hide. All right, so we just captured the pano here. So we're gonna go into this side of the house and do the hallway here. So as you see, if I place my camera here, which is normal, this is fine. If you're looking at the screen here, we would be placing an arrow here, and you can't really place an arrow here because this is just so close to these two areas, right? So you'll end up placing this camera here as well into the hallway, and then you'll end up placing this camera here. So you're gonna have 3 points. Right? But you can also do something differently. So instead of grabbing the point here that's in the center of this area, by moving it back a little bit, right here, you're still not quite across this door frame here, but this door frame had opened up, right? So now you can have an arrow pointing here, an arrow pointing here. Now these arrows are further apart. You still see clearly this area going back to where you were, and this area for the primary bedroom. So this is the optimal point here, because you're gonna skip that one point. Then you're gonna start recognizing other optimal points, and you might be skipping 10 different extra points that you didn't need to take, and every point takes you about a minute or two. You're talking about 10, 20 minutes shaving off of your tour creation. So these are the kind of nuances that I go over in the full module dedicated to the creation of Zillow 3D tours, or the tours in general, because we're gonna go over Matterport tours and we're gonna go over the custom tours on that module as well. All right, so I think we definitely scratched the surface of the concept of putting together a virtual tour on Zillow 3D platform. This concept will get you up and running. Again, you don't really need fancy equipment. Yeah, this is a fancy camera, but you can get a camera for about 300 bucks and get you going. But don't go anywhere. We're gonna do the video next, so stay tuned. All right, so we're gonna start doing the video portion of this full package. To assist us in stabilizing our camera is gonna be this gimbal. Now, this is a pretty old gimbal, but it works. This is kind of going back to how I was talking to you about how I started with Spark. You can also start with something like this. You can probably get something like this for like 200 bucks on eBay. It's an older model. So one of the challenges here is definitely stabilizing your camera. And the life hack here is to have a dedicated camera for your video production. This way it's gonna be easier for you to stabilize the camera. You just pop it in. So it's camera and lens set up. It's all ready to go. For this plate, a little life hack is to bring the plate all the way to the end of this camera. Fix it. Then you want to stabilize it, lock it in. Then you want to check, and this should stay somewhat. This is good enough. See, this kind of stays. Yeah, it's good enough. It's ready to go. It has strong engines anyway, so this should be okay. So in the first couple of seconds, it could be crooked, but you move around a little bit, and it kind of levels itself off. There's also an app for you to optimize this. As long as you keep the same setup, you should be all right and ready to go. Different camera settings, of course, with different cameras. I personally like to change ISO automatically while I'm changing my aperture manually here right on the lens. And I keep my shutter speed at around 125 or 160 because I'm shooting at 60 frames a second. All right, so enough of technical stuff. Let's go shoot some video. I like to shoot chronologically. This way it saves me time in editing. So I'm shooting with editing in mind in a lot of ways. Before, I'm gonna allude to the fact that I'm wearing black, and it's not by mistake. Black is less reflective, so it's a good idea to wear something black. All right, here we go. First shot. And I'm kind of lowering my center of gravity here, just so that I can be also kind of like a gimbal. Your body kind of becomes like an extension of this gimbal. I'm gonna push forward here. And if you saw what I did, I paused there a little bit. So what happens, I pause there a little bit just to kind of give a person a little time to absorb, to go from movement to no movement, so that they can say, oh, okay, this is how the front door looks like. Okay, good. So we're gonna start with no movement. Somewhere along the lines, I'm gonna hit a point when there's no movement, and then I'm gonna end my shot with also no movement to the camera. So essentially going from one composition to another with various points where you also have no movement. So this is definitely super bright outside and super dark inside. So that's why I don't go too much inside the house, because my settings here favor the exterior light conditions. So as I go in there, it's gonna be just a little bit too dark, but I'm not gonna stay there for a long time. I'm gonna cut it, and I'm gonna cut it to the second clip that's gonna start inside, and I'm gonna change some of my settings that are favorable for the inside lighting. But for now, let's take the second take. All right, and I'm kind of turning it a little bit, my wrist, my body. I squared off, paused, and now I'm pushing this camera forward. I'm keeping my wrist right underneath the camera. And now I'm turning it a little bit. I'm gonna keep the door handle to the right, and a little exterior wall here to my left. The ideal picture would be ending like right here, to grab the door handle here, and a little bit of the I guess the door lip, I guess. I don't know what it's called, but these things right here. Just to kind of signify, hey, this is the front entrance. This is how the front entrance looks like. All right, so I'm gonna lower my center of gravity and do a little bit of like that heel to toe ninja walk and kind of like skating, right? Kind of left foot to the side. And now I'm gonna pause a bit to give person perspective, push forward. And this is where I'm gonna start moving the wrist a little bit and then push. And here I am. All right, so we finished pointing here. My next shot is the next shot that we'll see in the video. We're shooting chronologically. So I want to start with the front door and frame somehow, right? But we are going this way. So I'm kind of going to be doing a U-turn. Not the best, but that's where we are. All right. So I'm simply going to walk this way, but turn my camera this way. And in the middle of that shot, I'm gonna stop and square off to show the stairs. All right, so this is how it's gonna look like. I'm gonna walk this way, I'm gonna turn my wrist this way, and that will turn into like an orb. All right, here we go, 3, 2, and let's go. Takes a little bit of practice, and here I'm gonna try to square off, pause for that composition, right? And then I'm gonna continue here. There's a mirror, that's fine. I'm gonna dive here, crawl, stairs, and here we go. We're gonna walk right through this hallway, and I'm gonna turn here, right into the kitchen. Boom. This was a tough shot, but you know, a little bit of acrobatics, yoga. So we ended the clip pointing that way. I definitely want to start the clip with the kitchen in the center too, but maybe from different side here. No, I don't like that. Actually, I'm going to start with here, and I'm going to pan and then go into the kitchen here. I'm going to square off, watch my parallels, and watch my horizontals, that they're parallel and horizontal. So I have the grid on, and you see how the ceiling is parallel to the grid. Do you see how this countertop here is parallel to the grid? How this ceiling here is parallel to the grid? That's how I know that this is more or less centered. Okay, so I'm gonna start here, okay? Here we go. And I'm gonna twist a bit with my entire body here and come up a bit. And then I'm gonna push as I kind of like orb. And if I want to, I can even push into this range. I'm gonna bring it up, simultaneously look down. This shot allows me to reveal the design and the color of the countertops. So that's a pretty important shot. I guess it's not a very traditional shot in real estate photography, but it's the one that I discovered to work very well with buyers because they want to see what this thing looks like. All right, so you can change how this looks like with a compensation, exposure value, EV, right? Exposure value. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to reveal it. We've kind of seen this area already, but I don't think we've seen it from this angle. It probably could be easier if I just go from here to over there. This way I'm not doing another U-turn. So I'm going to start here instead. So I'm gonna show you like what you could do. You could start here, for example, but then the couch kind of ceases to exist because there's no back to this couch. But now we have a back, right? So you gotta keep in mind some of these things. Anyway, so we're gonna start here. From one picture, I'm gonna pan here, and then I'm gonna push. I'm gonna walk towards this bed, and I'm gonna stop right here. Right, so you see me going from no movement to some sort of a pause every once in a while, to at the end of the clip, no movement again. You're gonna have like once in a lifetime transactions for a lot of people. So this is a shopping experience, not an action movie. So that will make a shopping experience that much better. All right, well, I've already covered a lot of concepts here, and these are the concepts that will get you to understand what it takes to do real estate videography. This is a walkthrough video. You can get fancier with this, but this is the basic concept. You're just walking from one point of the room to another. And I would even say you're going from a picture, one composition picture, to another composition picture. And if you've previously taken pictures of this house, then you'll already have these points in mind because you just took those pictures. So you're basically going from one picture to another with the camera, and that makes it a video walkthrough. We'll definitely go a lot more in depth in the course, so I'll see you at the next part of this full package production, which is drone. So get your drone goggles on, let's go. All right, perfect. All right, so we're about to fly a drone mission here. We're gonna do both video and photo. What helps me personally is to have some sort of a system. So what you'll see me do is fly ground level a little bit, then come up maybe 70 feet, and then we'll go as far as 400 feet. So we'll just work our way up incrementally, grab different angles at each level, and then we'll proceed to do a video clip. So that's the system that helps me. Now, of course, needless to say that you do need Part 1 of 7 to operate drones for commercial purposes, real estate being one of them. Well, without any further ado, let's go ahead and check out how this works. So we're gonna go ahead and take off. Now, the option for how we photograph this is we stay in the JPEG, and we simply take a couple of photos and we'll stack them up. So like an HDR photos, just like the same way we do inside. So this is our first photo. We're gonna do the ground level first. Obviously there's trees, so we gotta be careful flying this thing. That's good right here. So the reason why I like getting ground level with drone and with my DSLR, it's a little bit different how they look, and also I can move my drone quicker than this camera on the tripod, if you will. This is a big house and it's surrounded by trees, so that's a little bit tough here. All right, so I'm pleased with what I got. All right, so now we're gonna go up a couple of feet. So we got 50 feet right here, that's good. This actually looks nice right here. So I'm controlling my exposure with exposure compensation, just with the flick of this wheel here, and that helps me. So I'm not thinking too much, right? I'm just kind of going darker or brighter, just depending on the conditions. So also I have to be conscious of like neighbors. I don't want to linger too much over someone's house, although I'm not breaking any laws. People do come out and they do start asking questions. And a couple of times cops have been actually called, but we never had any trouble. Now, because there's the ocean right there, as you see, I try to have the horizon in there, in the shot. but you don't have to in these low shots right here. I can hear planes everywhere, so I gotta be careful. I wanna just wanna make sure that this guy is flying high enough. All right, so now I got all the mid, like a 50-foot high shots. I'm gonna go all the way up to 400 feet, and that's gonna get me more of the neighborhood. So in this community, for example, we'll see a lot of golf courses, the ocean, and we're just circling around the house, really, just capturing how this, like, you know, I guess the relationship between the house and the neighborhood, right? In fact, once you go to 400 feet, you can switch to sports mode so that you can fly faster around the house. All right, so once you get all the sides here, then you can proceed to video clips. Now with video clips, they're gonna be part of your overall video. So you just need 2 video clips for the opening scene, or I guess the establishing shot, right? To establish that this is how the house looks like. And a shot for the ending. You kind of want to leave people at the end impressed, and a drone shot impresses people. So this particular house, it's facing the kind of the ocean, so the ocean is that way. And normally what I do is I fly towards the house, towards the front of the house. But because the front of the house is actually facing the ocean, I'm going to fly from the back. So I'm going to reveal the house, and we're going to see the back of it. Actually, now that I think about it, because the back does not have the finished pool, that may be not the best idea. But I still think that having the ocean as the first shot is more important than having water in the pool. So that's it. That's my final decision. I'm going to start with the ocean view here. All right. I'm going to do my first shot. And you know, usually even in Hollywood movies, you take a couple of takes, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. In fact, let's kind of hide a little bit further down the driveway here. Boom, perfect. So I'm basically moving just my index finger on my left hand, this one, to control my gimbal here, right? This one, with this wheel. You see? This is my height, this is my elevation, obviously, and this is my, forward and back. So to achieve this first opening shot, I'm kind of flying forward as I descend and as I pan down, all at the same time. And then as I get closer to the house, you know, I let go of some of these things. Anyway, I'm gonna start recording. Press forward, descend, pan down a bit. There's the house, and I'm gonna slow my panning. I'm gonna slow my descend a bit. I'm gonna slow down my acceleration, let everything go. I mean, obviously the first shot was better, but I was not talking, so it's hard to talk and control. But you got the idea. I'm gonna do it the third time as well. I mean, again, you may have a different approach to this, but I definitely recommend some sort of a system where it's easier for you to replicate from house to house. So my next shot is me coming down in front of the house. Probably a good idea to get out of the sports mode. And the idea is to lower yourself to the ground level, kind of like what we started with photos, the ground level. So come up from here to that ground level shot. So what we need to do here is we need to first get the drone to where we want it to end at. So this is a quick and easy approach. We're going to use the exposure value compensation, but generally stick to the auto exposure. All right, so here we go. Our first attempt. We're just going to drop it. We're going to follow it with our pan. Hopefully we don't hit anything, and I can't tell if we are or not. Actually, I'm gonna get out of this auto thing because of the date. It's kind of like evening, so there's a drastic changes in lighting. So this is good right here. All right, so we're gonna come up now that we've exposed where we want it to be. Here we go. So just free fall it, and then follow with your pan finger. Let it go, and there it is. So there's a little bit of momentum, and you got to feel it out when you let when you stop panning. There's a little bit of that momentum, so you kind of have to feel it out, so it doesn't stop abruptly, you know. So same thing with descent. You let it go, and then there's a little bit of that cushion, I suppose. Okay, so I like this last shot here. So let's do our final shot, which what I do is go over to the backyard area and then fly sort of backwards, revealing the backyard a bit from here. All right, so obviously we're gonna be in the shot, so we gotta go and hide in front of the house, which is kind of counterintuitive, but, and while you do that, make sure there's no birds, there's nothing going on over there. All right, so we're ready for a shot. And this one is just super easy. You come up, start flying backwards, and pan up to track the house in the frame. And I'm slowly letting go of that pan. I'm still ascending.